I started this live stream. I started this live stream about an hour ago, and then I got some family drama, and then by the time I got back, it was gone. But anyway, I want to talk to you about my conversation with a normie Republican voter. I'm always eager to talk to not just Republican voters, but just, regular Americans who aren't hyper online, just regular people trying to go through their lives and try to understand where they're at in terms of what's happening in the country and, what Trump is doing and everything. So I went to go pay my rent, and the people there, it's a blue area, but I don't know, man. You could just tell the sort of Republican voter types. Like, these are, I mean, if you see the my landlord, I mean, he just, 1 second. Sorry about that. Not really sure what that is, but anyway, you could just. Sorry about that. Not really sure what that is, but anyway, you could just tell, man. My landlord, like, it's a family-owned business. I think they're like third generation or something. And these guys, man, they look like mafia type of people, like the slick back hair, greasy slick back hair, and just the way they talk, you could easily see them hanging out with Donald Trump. Hey, you, what's going on? Whatever. I'm not gonna do it. I do horrible accents, except for Russell Brand. Anyway, so I don't know. I don't get the necessarily the overt MAGA signs that you might see online. Like, I don't think they're about to be wearing any red hats, or they're not about to be running giant Trump flags. So I don't know if MAGA is even an appropriate term. I would more say MAGA friendly is the most extreme, but more like they are just, Republican voters, basically conservatives, right? So that's the landlord. This person I'm talking about is actually one of their employees. This is actually not as far as I know, he's not part of the family or anything. But I don't know, he fits right in. Not on a slick back look or whatever, but I don't know, man. I feel like I could just sniff out a Republican voter, a conservative. So my assumptions were correct, right? This is a guy he's been working for the company for, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years. He's been there for a while. I've been renting for well over a decade from them, but I was just like, hey man, how's your 401k looking? And he gave me this look. He was like, man, I don't want to look at it, blah, blah, blah. So that was actually, right, if you really pay attention and understand how this stuff works, that was actually a good sign, right? Because here's the bad sign. When I ask about the 401k, an immediate apologia. Like, yeah, that's fine. They're fixing stuff and blah, 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 blah. Some kind of excuse, some kind of deflection, some kind of like, I gotta go and jump in and protect these billionaires, even though I'm poor and can barely survive. Like, this is a guy, he's obviously, not obviously, but he's poor. He's just a guy who deals with, when you send your rent check in. Like, that's what I'm doing. I'm literally giving him my rent check. Right, so he's the guy that takes the rent checks and he's gotta input it in the computer. He ain't making no money doing that. And with the price of how things are right now, this is somebody who is struggling, right? So the idea that he would feel the need to go defend a bunch of billionaires, especially in this moment, would be absurd. So it's a good sign that that's not his first instincts, is to explain how it makes sense. He reacted as a normal American. That's, in this moment, that's kind of like, whoa, what's happening, my 401k in the market and the economy, right? So his reaction is a reaction that is appropriate for the moment. right? And so we kind of have a little small talk. Yeah, 401k, and have you looked at it? And oh, my account looks awful, and da 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 da. And then the apology has started to come through, right? So it's interesting. Like, right away, his instincts are based in reality, right? He starts off with reality, and then at some point, we're talking a little bit too long. I didn't say nothing about Trump, just to be clear, a Republican Party or whatever. We're just specifically talking about how bad the economy is, and how bad our 401ks look. And then he says something like, essentially, without quoting exact words, a sentiment of a kind of a wait and see, right? And then he starts to try to, let me know the reasoning behind this and the importance of, like, hey, everything, like he says literally, like, hey, everything we buy, it's made in China, right? Everything's made in China, right? So we got to bring the jobs back, or whatever, manufacturing, we got to come back, right? So the talking points that the elites and the multimillionaires have given him, right, to excuse what's happening right now. So that's what he comes back with, right? So what I got from that, from talking to him, is, on one hand, he recognizes the damage that's being done, and it's absolutely hurting him. He talked about how expensive groceries are. He said to me, when he gets his paycheck and then he pays his bills and he gets groceries or whatever, he asks himself, like, where did all this money go? Where did all the money go, right? So he's been feeling the pain, right, of the economy and the cost of living. So he knows, man, he gets it, right? But here's where the disconnect happens, and it's a very interesting dynamic. That's why I love to have these conversations, because I want to understand the thought process, right? When it's one thing online, you got these partisans who will just like, yeah, Trump, and mega this and that, and a small pain for a long-term gain. He actually literally said that, but when he said that phrase, he said it in a very kind of skeptical way, which is, it's interesting. Interesting. That's what I'm saying. That's not a full MAGA guy, right? Even in him saying the words that they gave him, he says it in a way, he's kind of like, they say, small term gain, whatever, but he said like he didn't really believe it, right? So here's where the disconnect comes in. He acknowledges the financial pain he's been going through, how tough things have been for a lot of people, including himself. He also recognizes and acknowledges that right now what Trump is doing is making it much, much worse. Right? Okay. But we don't want to stop there, right? We want to continue. Where do we continue to? So even though things are bad and Trump's making it worse, right? But what next? Right? So that's where he starts talking about the short-term pain, long-term gain, or whatever. And he starts talking about bringing the jobs back. But notice how none of that would bring costs down, right? So it's not like he's saying, hey man, this sucks right now, but based on X, Y, and Z, if we just be patient, the prices will come back down, or our salaries are going to go up, or some kind of solution that leads to something better for him, right? He was unable to articulate how any of this leads to a future where the things he's complaining about and was complaining about under Biden are better. He did reference Biden. So when we started talking about whatever, he says to me, it's going to take a year and a half to undo the damage that Biden caused. So Biden caused so much damage, right? This new guy comes in, and based on his moves, things are headed rapidly in the opposite direction, right? To being worse. We are headed to the worst of the pandemic. In a few months, Donald Trump has pushed us. I was looking at the graphs, right? A lot of the negative graphs of what happened during the stock market crash. I'm not talking just stock market crash. I'm just saying that particular economic bomb that went off. We are now at that level or worse. That is where Trump took us. And in that moment, think about the disconnect, the cognitive dissonance. In the moment that this one man has taken us to that bad, the damage that Biden did. I mean, woo! So, under Biden, things were getting better. Inflation was going down, right? Unemployment was at a very low level. You could play games and talk about what type of jobs or whatever, right? But the same way that unemployment was low under Trump, using those same metrics, the same systems, unemployment was low under Joe Biden, right? At the end of his term, unemployment being very low. Oh, wow. Is this a protest right here? That's where we're at in this country. Like, did I just randomly run into a protest? I know today was a lot of protests going on. But anyway, he's talking about, yeah, that's it. This is one of them. Hands off. Wow. Let me let you guys see, if I can. It's not the best camera for that. I can open. I think they're wrapping up or something. Anyway, yeah, so I don't know, man. I don't know what to do. I don't know how you're supposed to respond to this. So he's unable to articulate any specific way that what Trump is doing is going to make things better, right? Because even you say, okay, Trump brings the jobs back, the factories come back, we have stuff made more in America. How is that going to bring down the price of eggs and the price of groceries and the price to buy vehicles? I mean, everything that he's talking about are things that are going to make it's going to make things more expensive. Let's go in the future, 3, 4, 5 years. We've brought back a lot of these manufacturing jobs, right? So we have all these new plants. They're making all these vehicles here. Those vehicles are going to cost a lot more than they were before for 2 reasons. Number one, it just costs more to manufacture vehicles here domestically, right? Number two, if you just spend a lot of money building up all these this new facilities or whatever, you spent a ton of money. So you need to get that money back, right? So some of the costs of building these factories or whatever it is are going to be passed on to the consumers. right? So not only is it costing you more money to manufacture here based on the salaries. I mean, because look at it, we're talking about, you know, people aren't making enough money and things are too expensive, right? But there's like a conflict, right? You can't then bring all these factory jobs and then pay them good money, right? Because people are not making enough money. Pay them good money so they can afford rent or whatever. Because if you do that, that's gonna be cost. It's gonna make the vehicles cost so much more, right? So you're gonna pay them kind of what people have been getting paid before, which is not much, right? But it's still gonna be much more than if you had outsourced it. However they're doing it in Mexico, whatever it is. There's no way around it. Right? If you pay them good money, people complaining we can't survive. So if you bring these factory jobs and you pay them good money, then that's an absolute devastation of the automotive industry in this country. You're talking about absolutely, you know, like what happened in Detroit in the past. You're talking about creating another situation in Detroit again where it just automotive manufacturers completely collapse. Right? So the only way it can kind of make sense is if you don't raise the income and you pay them, you know, underpay them as they're doing now, right? But again, it's still going to be more than if you outsourced it, right? So either way, you're going to have to charge so much for your vehicles, right? And cut so many corners in manufacturing. So they're going to be such horrible vehicles. They're going to be falling apart. So you have poor people buying these vehicles and then spending a lot of money fixing them because you cut corners to cut the cost down to be able to potentially survive, right? It's just I just don't see it. And the thing is, it's not even like he has a theory, right? The basic way that his thought process is that basically, listen, this stuff is tough now, but it's worth it because we're going to bring back manufacturing. But okay, so what does that mean? Like, how does that outcome help you pay for groceries? How does that outcome help you to pay your rent? How does that outcome help you to pay your mortgage? I mean, I could see one thing if he was in manufacturing, right? He's like, I'm out of work. I can't find any work in manufacturing. And, you know, all these manufacturing jobs, you know, coming to the country, now I'll be able to work and then I can pay my bills and whatever right now. But he's not in manufacturing, right? He works for a real estate company. So how's that going to work? I mean, in a situation where rents continue to go up, mortgages continue to go up, so therefore the tenants, because he works for my landlord, right? So all of the tenants are going to be struggling under the pressure of a bad economy. A lot of them are going to lose their jobs, right? Which means you're going to have a lot of people that aren't paying rent, which means that my landlord, I mean, he's going to be all right? But they're going to be struggling financially, which means potential layoffs, which means this guy could lose his job, right? I mean, a lot of people that I'm describing a lot of people, but him specifically, again, it's not that I lack the vision, right? And I just don't get it. He doesn't get it either. Like, neither of us has a theory about how this makes things better, right? The only thing that he has is, again, just the talking points. Oh, he's gonna bring jobs back, and too much stuff is made in China, so we need to make stuff here. And it's like that. That's not wrong, right? We should make more stuff here, right? It is bad that so much stuff is made in China, but that's a separate thing from things are too expensive, right? So it's like on one hand you have China, too much stuff is made in China, not enough stuff is made here. On the other hand, you have things cost too damn much. Separate concepts. Bringing things back to the country and solving that issue, that doesn't solve the cost of living. That doesn't solve the cost of rent. That doesn't solve the mortgage, right? In fact, it makes it worse, right? So it's kind of like, even if you appreciate the bringing jobs back and you're like, I like what Trump's trying to do and I think it's important, you shouldn't be bringing that up in this moment, right? Because right now we're looking at the global economy being devastated. We're looking at a lot of economic pain for people. And at the end of it, neither I nor the people who support Trump have a clear solution of how it's going to become better. So right now in this moment, you should be like, this is bad. This is very bad. This is going to hurt me. This is going to hurt other people, right? I acknowledge that it's good to bring jobs back to the country, but I also acknowledge that the way that it's being done is going to really hurt me and many Americans. And I want to know, why is it being done this way as a Republican voter, right? That should be the response, but that's not the response. The response is just, hey, we got to bring jobs back and manufacturing and China stuff and and it's going to take time. And again, what is the outcome? What is the outcome? It's going to take time. So short-term pain for long-term gain. What's the long-term gain? You could say, oh, manufacturing jobs. Okay. How does that help you pay for groceries? How does so let's say in my area, as a result of what Trump is doing, they build this huge plant where they're going to start making Ford vehicles right here, right? They were going to do it in Mexico, but thanks to Trump, they're going to build it right here. Okay. As that plant, it has been built and it's now making cars that no one can afford, right? How is that making the community able to pay their rent, pay their bills? How is that going to translate to people in this community? So people in this community are going to drive past a new Ford plant that, thanks to Trump, they're going to drive past that plant and be like, yes, Trump did this and this is what we need. And they're going to pull up to a grocery store and they're going to go in and they're going to grab eggs. They're going to grab ham or whatever it is. There's the fish. How are those price tags going to have lower numbers because there's a Ford plant here, right? You work in real estate. You're a plumber. You work, whatever it is. You're a teacher. How is having a new plant here and being able to say that we're making more stuff in America, how is that making your whatever job you have, them saying, you know what, there's a Ford plant here, so we're going to give you a raise, right? Or, the farmers. The farmers are going to be like, there's more plants in the country. I'm talking about just cars. Obviously, it's going to be other things as well, right? It's a lot of industries. But there's more of these plants now, so we are now going to sell eggs at a lower price. Hey, America, we're going to sell you beef at a lower price because of all these things are now being made in the country. Like, I don't, again, if they had a theory, we could disagree with it. I could say, that doesn't make any sense, or I could ask questions, but he didn't have a theory. It was literally just China stuff, China and bring jobs back and this and that, and it's going to be short-term pain for long-term gain, but can't define what those gains are beyond, oh, we brought back manufacturing. Okay. It's almost like, you remember there was a time where they were saying that everybody should be a coder? It was like, everybody should be, oh, you guys are losing your jobs and AI is, or whatever they were talking about. Oh, well, learn how to program. I mean, at least that was a little different because that was a direct translation. You're saying that whatever you're doing right now, you're not able to survive or whatever. And we're saying, do this. If you now go into a new job, right? A new industry, you can now tap into higher income and then life can be better. But in this case, it's not like they're saying, hey, let's bring back manufacturing and then everyone's going to go into manufacturing. And then there's going to be a manufacturing boom. So there's going to be tons of manufacturing jobs. So now they're not even saying that. They're just in isolation saying, oh, we bring back manufacturing. We bring back jobs that we're offshoring. So, like, you know what I mean? Like, there isn't people should now change your jobs. Like, if you're doing retail, leave retail and go into manufacturing, go work out of, nobody's saying that. They're just in isolation saying, bring jobs back, bring back manufacturing, and somehow that's going to make things better. Anyway, correct on all counts. Propagandists are still winning again. You don't support Trump? Typical socialist attitude. Right? So anyway, I mean, I'm in, like you guys know, I'm in a crazy crisis right now, so my time is very limited. But I'm gonna try my best to whatever opportunities I have to talk to like regular people, get away out from these online freaks, shall we say, and talk to regular people and see what you know what their thought process is and what they feel about how things are going. I will do what I can when I can. But on this note, I have not had anything to eat all day. Um, you know, my life is never boring. I have a guest that extended their stay and I forgot to reset the locks. They decided to leave at 2 a.m. this morning to go who knows where, maybe to a bar or something. Came back at 4, they couldn't get in. I was fast asleep. I wasn't aware of any of this until 9:30 when I got up. I took a look at the cameras. Somebody called the cops. I have no idea where the guest is. I hope she's okay. So, been a little crazy. And I'm just coming back from paying my rent, which I'm fortunate that I was able to actually pay it. Fortunately, I was able to pay it because I finally, you know, I was kind of getting really overwhelmed with everything, and I kind of got into escapism, where I just kind of like detached myself from the mortgage and everything. You know, I finally started, you know, getting back into like I can't just turn my back on this stuff. So I'm currently talking to the mortgage company, trying to get a there's a thing where they can move your payments to the end of the mortgage. So basically, I haven't paid in a couple months, so I still have that money. And hopefully, if I get approved for this, that could be all that I need to get me through, because now I'm actually pretty good because I have 2 months mortgage, which is a lot of money. I can't spend it because, well, it's just I can't spend it, but I got to be careful, right? Because I don't know what's going to happen if I don't qualify for the program. They could ask me to pay big money, and it's been long enough that they would have the ability to start taking action against me, like foreclosure and stuff like that. So it's a very strange situation to be in. Like I have the extra funds because of those mortgage payments that I just didn't make. But on the same token, I don't know if I'm going to need that money in 30 days. But in this moment, I choose to deal with what I have going right now, and in this moment, I'm choosing to feel a little bit more, a little bit less anxious, because I do have, good money to do whatever I need to do, groceries or whatever. My mode is just be very smart about it. So feel more relaxed because the money is technically there, but also don't go crazy because you don't know, I don't know what kind of bill I'm going to be looking at in 30 days. And my hands are kind of tied. Like if they hit me hard, like I'm not going to be able to, if they're like, listen, you need to pay 20 grand right now or we're going to foreclose. I don't have a lot of options at this point. So it could be very bad. So I need to be very careful what I do between now and then. Anyway, enough about me and my drama. Let me go actually eat and get going. All right, man. Later. I'm out.